That should be the takeaway today. We now have Theresa take the podium out here. She's already been introduced. Just to let you know, she's run a conference with 1,000 attendees over 46 of top Canadian business organizations, world-class speakers. Interviews from Sir Richard Branson, St. Golden, Bruce Moon, and Robin Sharma. Please help me welcome Theresa.
Thank you everybody for having us. Thank you Ty and to Faskin. It's really great to be with fellow entrepreneurs and innovators, and I'm here to basically share with you my story as well as some key insights that I've had as I've built 2 startups right now. So I actually participated in the Lean Startup, and as he said, my name is Theresa. My actual background is more television. I worked in 8 years in producing like major TV shows and branding. One day, when I was working on a really big TV set, I was like, is the work I'm doing worth my life? And when the answer was no, then I was like, I think something has to change. I think there has to be a change. Has anybody ever experienced that kind of question? Yeah, right? And in that moment, the difference I think between great leaders are people that actually have the courage to then say, well, let me try to do something differently. And then entrepreneurs are the ones that actually jump and do that. I'm going to share what has happened, I guess, in the last year and my journey and my story. So I participated in the Lean Startup Machine that just happened recently this summer. But the way that I got to the Lean Startup wasn't intentional, as it would be for you guys who are here tonight, learning about it. My journey began because like they mentioned, I run a really big conference in the city called Socialite. And the brand Socialite itself is, we make fun of, socialites today, you value a socialite based on things like what they own, so their financial status or their sort of social status. Socialite is actually spelled light. So the new socialite is somebody who's a light in the world, and it's an acronym for leader impacting global humanity today. In our venture, what we do is we try to get the top speakers, innovators, and creators to come and speak to entrepreneurs in our city. And when I launched that, I had 1,000 people at the Metro Toronto Convention Center for our launch. Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson, did an opening address, and we had lots of different speakers, which you can find out more about. In that journey, in that process, to try to find the best speakers for the entrepreneur startup community, of course, you hear about Lean, one of the hottest topics and trends right now in entrepreneurship. So I met with Eric Ries and Ash as well at Mars and at the CFC, and I spoke to them about being at my conference. When I spoke to them, I thought, well, you know what? Since I'm speaking to them, and I might as well experience what the entire Lean concept is. Let's get my hands dirty, and most entrepreneurs, we like to do that. So I attended the Lean Startup Machine, and I walked into a room, and I was wearing high heels, very similar to the ones I'm wearing now. And I walked in, and it was all men, practically. There was like maybe 2 females. And not to say that that's how the event is, but my experience was, I thought this was like a open for everybody, entrepreneurs come and build a product. And how it felt for me was, I'm amongst a whole bunch of people that want to build the next Google. I don't belong here, so that was kind of the feeling I had, was like, one of these things just doesn't belong here. Like, I think I'll just sit down and have all these brilliant technologists take over. And so I realized that I was actually really scared. Working really closely with the startup entrepreneur community here in Toronto, I really got to realize that there was a genuine problem that wasn't being solved, which I'll tell you later. And I had an idea for a calendar, and I thought, this is something I played with before, and I had an idea for this calendar, but when I walked into the room and saw what I saw, I got really intimidated, actually, and I don't really get intimidated. So I was like, and as I was getting my pizza or the food, I ran into Todd, who you're going to hear speak later on. And Todd said to me, do you have an idea? And I'm like, yes, because the way it works at Lean is you have to come there with an idea. You don't have to. But if you do have an idea, it's great that you pitch it, because then you get to work on your idea. So he's like, do you have an idea? And I'm like, actually I do, but I'm really scared, so I'm just going to let other people talk, and I'll just sit this whole weekend, and I'll just play my role and contribute. And it actually would be really refreshing for me for a second to not be leading and to just be on a team. And he's like, nope, if you're scared, you gotta follow it. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't think you understand. I'm actually scared. I don't want to do that. And he's like, if you're scared, what would happen if you followed your fear? And I followed it, and by the end of it, everybody went up, and there I was with my hand up like, okay, and I was one of the last people to get up, and you have to introduce yourself and your idea. So when you have a great idea, it's kind of like bees to a honey. They're like, wow, this is an amazing idea, and at the time you have a whole room, so it's actually double or triple the size of the amount of people that are here today. And you get up and you share your idea, and it gets narrowed down to 10 people. 10 people, or is that right? 10 people get their idea chosen out of an entire group. So somehow I made it to top 10, and now I'm thinking, I didn't come here to, I'm like, okay, great, I'm top 10. So I shared my idea of an aggregated calendar, and then all of a sudden, all these people came to my group, and you're only allowed to have 4 people on your group. So I was like, what, can't I just have everybody? Can't I just have all these people that love my idea? And the organizers were like, no, you have to choose the top 4 people to be on your team who will deliver this product and deliver it well. So then at that moment, I felt like Dragon's Den, and I'm like, great, introduce yourselves. Why do you want to be on my team? Who are you? And then I had to quickly learn how to assess who I think would have the skills to move our product forward. So then we started really discussing as a group, what's the problem and who's the customer? A lot of entrepreneurs are like, I got this great idea, but it's funny how they're not actually clear on these 2 components. What is the actual problem you're solving, and who specifically is your customer? The clarity around this will really help the success of your company. So we realized for us that the problem was that it was time consuming to find events and to find relevant events. There were too many event listings and sources. So if you're an entrepreneur in Toronto, just think of yourself. You're going to Eventbrite, Sprouter, Mars, DMZ, like you're going all over the place to try to find events that are actually relevant to you, Thai, and you're already building your business. You don't have time to sit there and go, which event should I go to today? But an event can actually make or break in the beginning of when you have a startup because of the networks that you meet. So what we thought was, okay, so that's the problem that we think people have. The customer we'd like to focus on is startups and entrepreneurs between 0 to 2 years, so they're just in startup mode. The solution we came up with was called originally MyCal, and then we rebranded and named it SocialCal. And it is a customized source of aggregated event listings for startup entrepreneurs. So basically what we would do is aggregate all the events in the cities from CSI, Mars, and all the major affiliates and brands, and put it onto one calendar that you can actually just click, see, and sync to your own calendar, find out which events are most relevant to you. Now, we had to go through a whole process for this because when you go through the lean methodology process, you can't just have an idea. You actually have to prove that people not only want your idea, but that they're willing to pay you money for your idea. And so this was our process experience. So originally our first hypothesis was that our riskiest assumption, was that entrepreneurs care about missed events and opportunities. And when we actually went out of the building and we interviewed, we went to ING, Network Orange, we went all over the place where entrepreneurs actually are, and the team interviewed entrepreneurs like us to say, do you actually care that you miss events? People really didn't care that they missed events, and so so that hypothesis failed. We learned that people care about influencers, but don't necessarily care about missed events. So we pivoted to the next hypothesis. So we thought, okay, well, people want to attend events, and what matters to them is influencers. So if you see that a key influencer in the city is going to an event, you're probably more likely to go to that event because that influencer said that they're going. We tested that thinking, oh yeah, this is it. We're going to make a ranking system. We got it. And then when we actually talked to our potential customers, people actually didn't care. It's like they cared more about the quality of the event and if the topics being covered were relevant to the growth of their company and their success, more than influencers. So we're like, okay. So we pivoted again and we tried. And by the end of this whole process, we realized that people want one place to find events that are personalized to them. So if you click, I'm really into tech, I'm really into green tech, I'm into whatever it is, and you specialize the things that you like, that actually is what you want. So we began to just continue to build, and it's real startup mode with pizza and laptops and sticky notes. And this was our first minimal viable product. We actually built, it was a piece of paper, and what we did was we narrowed it down to 10 options where we said tech, design, and entrepreneurship, marketing, legal, finances, leadership, nonprofit business. And then we went to people that we originally talked to and we said, I know you're really busy, but if you just click, can you just check 3 things that you're really interested in of events that will actually help take your business to the next level? So then they would check off tech, design, or entrepreneurship. I'm like, great, well, we'll be back in about an hour. And then what we did was we came back in an hour, and we said, on this piece of paper, we have every single event that is relevant to what you checked for the next 3 months. Do you want this piece of paper or not? And they were like, yeah. And it's like, well then, will you pay for this piece of paper? And we actually collected money, emails, and people were like, give it to me. And what they teach in Lean is how do you create a product that makes people, they call it foam in your mouth, like you're so excited, you just want it, you're drooling. So we found that we created that, and what we did was we tested it in the public. So we actually said, calling startup entrepreneurs, never miss an event again, and we tested that piece of paper and actually built it online to test, would people react? So this is an example of the landing page that we just quickly created to see if people would actually sign up or be interested in it. And everywhere, we put it on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere that entrepreneurs would possibly be. And within, the team literally posted everything, got up to go get some apples and water and stuff. By the time we came back, 116 responses. By the time we ended the hour, it was like 200 people. We couldn't, you should have seen the team. We literally were like, is that right? Like, our mouths were dropped. We couldn't believe the amount of people that signed up for this product within our own city. These are the kind of, they were interested in business, marketing, leadership. These are the kind of data metrics that we found. And then this is an example. They signed up their email. They gave us so much data. And if you look at this list, if you're familiar with the startup scene in Toronto, these are pretty influential people that signed up. Like Chris even starts the Startup Weekend movement. I don't know if you guys know about that, but so we were like, okay, I think we have something. I think we have a product that people actually want. These were just different locations of interest that we thought we tested. So at the end of it, we had to come up with what is the monetization hypothesis, because it's great that you have this product, but how are you guys actually going to be sustainable as a business? So we thought of all different sort of monetization things that we could do. And then currently, we're now in an accelerator, the Driven Accelerator, and we're going to be we launched our alpha product. So if you have an alpha product, I hated how our site looked. It looked so ugly, and I was like, there's no way I'm releasing this to the public. There is no way. And then we talked to Trevor from the Lean Startup in New York, and he literally had to coach us and say, if you don't think that your first alpha product is ugly, then you're doing something wrong. You got to just get it out there, see if people like it, and you kind of have to give up this whole looking good thing. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, you spend a lot of money, a lot of time building things that people actually don't want. So when you go through the Lean process, it gives you the opportunity to actually create something that people want. So this is a picture of my conference, Socialite, in Toronto. So we're having another one November 17th. We'll give away 2 tickets tonight. And I'll give you details on how you can do that. And again, even with my conference, one of the things, the Lean methodologies we applied to it was, rather than us pushing, there's this thing called push-pull communication. You really want to stop being somebody who pushes communication to people to someone who pulls. And what I mean by that is, we surveyed the Toronto entrepreneur market. We actually said, what is the biggest pain point that you currently have? And actually listened to what our own community said. Surprisingly, one of the #1 things that they said was funding. They didn't know where to get money, how to get money, when they did get money, how do they get it yet? Does anyone else experience that in this room? Funding, would you say is a big issue? Yeah. And so we were like, all right, Rather than throwing a conference that was all these people talking at you, we actually began something where we carved out an hour and put the top funders on stage to say, hi, my name is X, we have $4.9 million to give to entrepreneurs, and this is how you get a yes from us. And we put 5 or 6 of them on the stage to do that. So again, it was our way of getting to know our customers and just really taking the time to listen. And I think that is one fundamental part of why our conference was a success and will be a success again this year. So we're going to be doing our beta launch at Socialite on the 17th. And these are just some goals. And if any of you do Lean, we actually have a copy of the Lean pitch that we did, that we won. So if you could see how we did it and what we did it to win. So I'm just going to break down the last 10 key lessons that we got that might help you if you participate in the Lean Startup Machine, but just in your business overall. So number 1, as you saw Jonathan model, get out of the building. And what this means is when you're an entrepreneur, thank you, Jonathan, or Vanna White, when you're an entrepreneur, you're so in the grind of your business. It's like you, your laptop, your people, like you're just, that is the reality of startup. Get out of the building and actually talk to your potential customers. Take the time, I don't care, 3 people a day, and just, hey, you know, what is X? Whatever company you're trying to build, talk to the people that would actually be your potential customers. See if they would actually like your product, if they'll pay you money for your product. So get out of the building. Number 2, okay, this one I can't really swear because it's being broadcasted, but you'll learn what this means in Lean. But it's talk to your FC. So talk to your customers. Again, that's what we just touched on, which is talk to your customers and actually take the time to get to know them, what they want, and really get into their world. When you're in Lean, you only have 3 days. A lot of people, when they're doing pitches, were like talking about problems that had nothing to do with their business. When you have people's attention, when you're in an investor meeting, when you're at the Lean Startup doing your pitch, be really precise, get really clear on your business and what value you're providing. So time is definitely one of the biggest things in the Lean Startup Machine weekend. Don't be attached to your ideas. So, as you can tell, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you have this awesome idea, you're like, I have the next Google. I have it, it's right here, I have it. And you get so attached to this idea. And you have such a difficult time if somebody actually tells you, actually your idea sucks. And I wouldn't pay you any money for it. And you gotta be prepared to hear that. So don't be attached to your idea, be willing to change based on what people actually want. So that's another thing that I would advise. Or else, again, it's a party for one, right? Like, really. And then number 5, make something, and I think, you know, if there was one t-shirt I would wear, it would be like something like that. Make something people actually want. Make something that they need rather than holding on to your idea that you have the next best big thing. And when you're in Lean, you really become like a scientist. You get really curious. I felt like I was a scientist over the last 3 days when we were in Lean Startup. And I was like with my scientist robe, and I'm just like, let me find out everything about you. Really? No? Okay, great. Awesome. And it's kind of a role play that you can take on as you build your business. So getting really curious, asking great questions. Number 6, bless you. Number 6 is test fast, fail fast, adjust fast. So these are the reiterations of the Google logo. And when you're in the Lean Startup Machine, you don't have time to really sit and think, well, if we did it this way, well, what if we did it that way? It's like, it's just quick, fast, pivot, and test another hypothesis. So that was a lesson that I got out of Lean Startup. And again, you really want to not hold on to those ideas. So it's like a bad date. You just want to, you're not looking for Mrs. Right. You want to go right, Mrs. Right now. You don't want to be with that person. You want to be with Mrs. Right. The MVP, we can't stress that enough. Building a minimal viable product. I don't know if you hear about all these entrepreneurs that build these really fancy sites. Oh, my site costs like $500,000 and has these really cool gadgets that you can do this. Well, that's awesome. Is anyone actually going to your website? So what you want to do is build, this is a sample over here, which is just really simple. Lemonade sign, Twitter, Facebook, keep it simple to test if you have a great idea. And then number 8, there's a lot of mentors and a lot of people that will be around you during the Lean Startup Machine Weekend. And for us, when we were around all these mentors, while mentorship and that is very important, especially like for a startup, in that weekend, there was times where I also had to trust and rely on my own inner wisdom. And I would advise you as an entrepreneur to do that as well, to build that muscle of actually trusting your intuition. Sometimes you get scared and you're like, no, I really don't think this is gonna work, but then all these people tell you something else, but there's that thing inside of you that's like, I don't know. So practice building that muscle and cultivating the strength to believe in yourself and the decisions that you make as, like my title is CBO, because I'm not really about titles, but CBO stands for Chief Visionary Officer, and might as well have some fun if we're gonna do this anyways, but really just that muscle of taking some time. Before I did Lean, I was at a 10-day silent retreat called Vipassana, and I am super A-type. So for me to actually stop, give my cell phone, and press stop on my life to learn how to master my mind and the creativity within me, it's extraordinary. And then to go from that to Lean was a whole other thing, but I think that presence, the ability to really be clear on certain things made a huge difference for us. So, keep calm and rock on is how I'd say it. And when things are all crazy at the Lean Startup, you're going to be dealing with people with personality issues and egos and all of that. And if you can just remain, and this is probably within your own startup or your own environment that you work in, if you can remain like the eye of the storm, it's really powerful, grounded, and not get caught up in all of that other stuff. And lastly, it's really a wish of just, going out into the ocean, you really don't know what's possible for you. And what's really exciting about entrepreneurs, which is what Socialite stands for, this idea of embodying people, planet, profit. You must have profit in order to be a sustainable business. But are there different ways and different questions we can be asking as innovators and entrepreneurs to create a different reality where people and the way we impact humanity as well as the way that we impact the world can be tied into the way that we build our businesses. So this is just, have some fun, laugh, and enjoy the journey. And I hope that you all become Lean superheroes. And my name is Theresa Laurico, and thank you so much.
Any questions?
Oh, questions, right.
We have time for that.
Oh, we do? Okay, wonderful. You can ask anything you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Theresa, when you went about validating whether your idea was going to work or not, how did you approach those potential customers?
Okay, so did you guys all hear that? Yeah? She basically wants to know how did we talk to our potential customers and do that original survey market. When we did it for the conference, we used SurveyMonkey. You guys all know about SurveyMonkey? It's this free. It's free, you can create questions, and because we were still young in the way that we were collecting data, there are other metrics and ways that you could collect information. But in the Lean Startup Machine Weekend, we actually had to physically go out and have a conversation face to face. So we didn't use any technology. You're not allowed to let anybody know that you're even in the weekend. So it's really all conversations and face-to-face. That's how we did it. And then with Socialite, when we built a conference, it was using SurveyMonkey. And then now it's a little bit more sophisticated, and we're learning different ways to collect data from our potential customers. Yes?
At what point did the project become more than you? And like when did you bring in an engineering team? Because I'm assuming that CVO.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We have, so the way that I did the SocialCal project, there's 3 co-founders. So even though it was my idea, there was a CTO who also is a very heavy, he does Oracle developing. 2 guys that were on my team have more than 20 years of technology experience and things like that. So we had a very strong team. And when I was playing Role of Dragon's Den, I kind of carefully, I know, when you're an entrepreneur, it's really great if you can know what you're strong at and what you're weak at. And then usually I like having people around me that are 10 times smarter than me. It always works, it's great. But so there came a point where it's not that it was bigger than us, but we're currently in an accelerator program that we're learning so many different things about how to really take this product to market. Because sometimes after lean startup, what can happen is people just do that weekend, and then it doesn't progress to anything. But there are people that are also success stories where it changes their entire life, actually. So that's, yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? My question is in regards to ownership of your product after you had developed it. So you had people you did not know initially, came together, developed a product, and then how did you figure out who owned what and how much of it?
It's a really good question. That was actually one of the first things that we were challenged with, because who owns everything? So for Social, because it's really about bringing a product to market, we're more interested in that. We just split everything. I primarily have most of the creative control over it, because it falls also under my, like I have another brand, my Social Light, and Social we're hoping to have that be offered to the candidates of Social Light as well. But really, at the end of the day, like, we are still working with lawyers to figure all of that out. Yeah, but ownership, that's a really good question, because you want to think, you don't want too many chickens and, yeah, cooks in the kitchen, as they say.
Right. Yeah. So to follow up that question, which is you're the visionary. You've got a tech colleague and two others.
Right.
The tech colleague who you said is 10 times or 100 times brighter than you. Does that person want 10 times the level of equity that you have?
No, we actually agreed to pretty much split the equity and profit.
So 4 people,
surprisingly.
25%
Three.
each. 3 people.
Originally there were 4.
Right.
And then that didn't work out with one of them. Actually, there was originally 5 of us.
So this is the really interesting bit.
Yeah.
What happened to those other 2? Why
Okay.
and how? Because that's where it gets
Awesome,
into the
awesome, okay.
juicy stuff for people in.
Let's get juicy. I like that. So there were originally 5 of us,
Right.
and 2 of them, one of them is an agile coach,
Right.
and the other one had a tech company or is doing something in California. So they couldn't commit
Right.
past the Lean Startup Machine weekend to building something that would go move on,
Right.
which we totally appreciated that honesty, because that totally works. You don't want somebody on your team that isn't committed to the project. So then it narrowed it down to 3. So that's what happened to them. And then in that state, the 3 of us are now building, cultivating, and we might even pivot to something else now. It's a crazy learning process. So that's what happened.
So those 2 other people deselected themselves, and there was no equity.
No equity, nothing. So I just ran into him actually in Boston on a flight back, and they're still part of hearing how we're doing. But, yeah.
So, and sorry, just the final
Yeah,
follow-up
okay.
on that is, so how long have you been going, and you still haven't, if I heard you correctly, the final 3 of you haven't actually divvied up the pie yet still?
Right, we're still in negotiations for all that, but
How long has that been going?
How long has it been going?
No, how long have you guys been a triptych and have yet to finalize who gets what and how much?
We started the accelerator like maybe at the end of, it was in August, so it's like not even
Right.
4 weeks, and it's so new, right? So we're hitting up everything for that tech portfolio.
Right. Okay.
Let's go back.
Do you comment a little bit on your competitors, or how?
Competitors?
Yeah, how afraid are you that somebody can reproduce whatever you build up now?
I think that's a really important question. So she asked about competitors and how do you,
Protect your idea.
what if somebody takes our idea? Yeah, totally awesome. I mean, it's when you're at the Lean Startup Machine, you go there and you share your idea, and somebody could just take it. There's a room full of developers and people that work with Google, and they could possibly take it. But I think when you're actually someone like an entrepreneur who is creative and has lots of ideas, you will come up with the next idea. You win, I win, because essentially we're entrepreneurs, right? And I guess maybe I'm a little bit different than a lot of other entrepreneurs might be more cutthroat, but for us, we actually took a look at a lot of the competitors we had. We looked at the way that other aggregated event sources were building the things that they were building. And one thing that we saw that was missing was that there was no one place that listed all the events that were relevant to startup and entrepreneurs. We went to, everything from Eventbrite to meetup groups, and we didn't want our events to be like these networking MLM type events. We wanted to come from affiliates, quality events that will sort of really serve the entrepreneur community in one spot, so that if somebody else is to build a product, that's awesome. I think I'm like that with Socialite. Like, we are a conference we are branded as the ultimate entrepreneur and leadership conference. If somebody else in the city is to come in and do the same thing, that's great. Actually, we would probably partner with them and see how can we collaborate. Because leadership isn't enough. It's about actual stewardship. The ability to be the kind of person that holds the space for a different kind of conversation with the players that can actually make a difference. For me, I'm more interested in that than I am in focusing my attention on, oh my God, that person's building the same thing I'm building, and what if they're better than me? And oh my, I don't have the space to think about that right now. It's important to be aware of your competition, to learn from your competition, to study it. But I think when you are so about service, you'll never go wrong.
Can I just add to that? I just want to add one point. Like, we all have ideas. I have millions of ideas, new ideas come out of my head every day. I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take over the world, I'm going to go to the moon. But the point is that taking action is where it's at. It's how many people are actually going to take action. Oh yeah, I have this great idea, I want to do a conference, but Theresa has taken action and made it possible. I'm just thinking about it, I'm just talking about it. So that's a big difference too. You share your ideas, because that'll make you take action. Don't be scared of sharing your ideas.
Great. Last two questions, Ronnie.
Drum roll,
Ronnie, you had a
last question.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering if your idea and product is protectable, like IP, and if not, maybe you can tell us about, did you need financing, or how did you convince investors about a product that is not protectable?
That's a very good question. So currently in our accelerator program, we're going through all of that stuff. So the accelerator driven has brought a lot of Canada and the United States, like really, really strong mentors and advisors who are guiding our next steps around issues like IP and getting investors. And one of the big questions is, do you even want an investor? Can you build a product that is financed in a different way? So we're exploring so many different things. But we have, our demo day is November the 20th. So if you guys want to come to demo day, our demo day is on the 20th. So we'll know by then. So we have another about 7 weeks to develop.
Alex?
I have a similar question, basically, to investors. So do you guys have investors or not?
Right now, we're our own investors, like most startups. So it's us investing.
And you full-time to your project, right? So basically,
I'm
you work
full-time
full-time.
to my other startup as well. So
Okay.
and
Because the toughest question for each entrepreneur, like, how am I gonna survive, right? While I'm working on this project.
right.
So this is a question: how you basically organize this part? Because, well, it's tough to organize all the pieces together if you don't have any income.
Right, so is the question, how do you build your startup if you have a 9-to-5 job, or is it how do you build a startup if you have zero money?
Exactly.
Okay, so good question. So I'm like, can I actually answer that? I don't know. I think I can be part of the conversation of how to do that. I think I'm definitely committed. 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs will fail in it's a statistic. So basically, out of you guys, 9 of you in a group of 10 will fail if you actually went out and did your startup. I definitely want to be part of that conversation on how to alleviate that. But then you look at Toronto in general, and we're ranked one of the 4th top cities, best cities to build a startup tech company, right? And so there's opportunity all around everybody. And I think when you are building your startup, you get really creative on resources, on people, and on things. And I think the greatest entrepreneurs who, like one of my favorite is Alan Lau of Wattpad. Wattpad started out of his basement. I don't know if you guys have Googled or heard of Wattpad, but they're incredible. And he started on his basement. And it was him and his business partner and a dream. And, you know, I know it's a stereotype, but you find ways to make your dream happen. And if it means you have to work a 9 to 5 and build your startup in the night, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that. That's what you gotta do. And people like Tony Hsieh, you know, when he was first building, he had to sell all his properties and didn't know if he was gonna make it or not. I think that's part of the entrepreneur journey. And so it's really an individual thing and process. So thank you so much, everybody.